Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Chris and Brick. Couple of things to share with you all. First, of course, if you would hit the like and the subscribe buttons. Thank you for letting me have to mention that. Always my favorite. But one thing that's coming up today and in about 45 minutes is I will be on another podcast called the Kito Abashi podcast, which is a good friend of mine, and he's got quite a following himself. It's going to be myself and Kito and another acquaintance of ours that lives in another part of the world. I'll leave it at that, so you can kind of come over and check it out. No, I told you it's just me. Well, they don't even know you, because what are you gonna talk about with them? Because they're gonna look. We'll take this offline. Sorry. Apparently, Brick was under the assumption that Brick was going to be invited to the show. You can be there to watch, but you can't be on the show. I'll talk to Kito about maybe getting you on another show. Let's take it offline, please. Okay, thank you. For today's episode, I think though what we want to focus on, you really threw me off. So this is not making me happy right now, and we're going to have to work through this. So just, can we get back to the focus of the show? We already have our discussion ready, and let's go with that. So today, like I said, I'm going to be on that podcast. That one generally lasts about an hour. Lots of interesting topics. We get to talk about cross cultures, about how how life is in other parts of the world, just a lot of things in general that you wouldn't necessarily assume happen in a casual conversation, with such a diverse group of people. So it'll be a lot of fun. With that being said, that actually sort of circled me back around to a little bit something that's less diverse, which is just about family in general. I was reading an article to Brick this morning, and it was about how a mother wants to basically disown her son, who's 11 years old, because I guess he's a jerk and he's abusive. And Brick, first of all, I don't know what your family life was like. Feel free to share some of that as we're going through. But in the household that I lived in, if I was an 11-year-old jerk, it didn't go very far. I was taught very early on that it doesn't matter how spoiled I could be, it doesn't matter how big I am, it doesn't matter any of that stuff. My mother made sure that I was a polite child. And so that just didn't happen. So to hear this stuff happening now, this is where, we start back into that discussion around culture and about how, people have really changed the whole scope of being a family. I mean, a family now is kind of on whoever's terms wants to set the terms. So if the kid says, I hate my family, they have this whole emancipation thing where you can just not be a part of your parents' lives anymore. And I understand that from the perspective of if they're abusive or, something along those lines. But if it's just because, and I have met a few folks, by the way, who have decided just because they didn't like the fact that their parents wouldn't give them something. Have you experienced this as well? No. Okay. Well, so in Brick's house, Brick actually has a very similar background to my own. He says basically that there was a hierarchy. You knew who the head brick was, or you know who the head brick is, and you treat that brick with great respect, even if you don't always agree with them. They're very generally polite to each other, although thank you, Douglas. Although I will say, from what he's told me, it can get a little rough sometimes, as you can see by some of the scarring. But that was actually more life related, not so much family related. Oh no, this one's from your brother? Yeah, okay, so there's a scar right here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a scar that goes along here, and this is what he got, I guess, from his brother, or sister, or your sibling. And how did you get that? I mean, that's a pretty deep scar. Oh, really? So apparently in the brick community, they have no problem just sort of throwing themselves at each other. So that's actually a scar left by the sharp edge of Brick's sibling, and actually now that I look, you've got about 2 or 3. So, I mean, I hope you gave back a little bit. It looks like you did. You look like you're a pretty tough, scrappy fellow. Anyway, so this whole idea of, family not figuring out how to be family is a unique and interesting observation to me, because my own family itself, while I speak about how I was raised by my mother, my family as a whole is kind of separate. Like, we don't do a lot together. We come together for occasional holidays, but we're not really. We've been spread out, I think, for so long as a family all over the U.S. for the most part, and there's little pockets of us that stay in contact with each other, but we don't necessarily have, it's an interesting dynamic to me, because the way I see it is we have a tight family bond. Like, we are all Shyrocks. We are all the same blood, and we know that. But when it comes to spending a lot of time together, not so much. That's not really, necessarily our thing. There's family members that I see every year, every other year at Thanksgiving at my grandparents' house, that I never talk to at all throughout the year, or maybe once or twice. And that's kind of the whole the whole dynamic. I mean, we and when we're together, we have a great time. There's usually a little drama here and there, like I think there is at every family. Somebody gets upset about something or what have you. But I do notice that family, the concept of family seems to be transforming into something else, and I wish I could put an exact word or words to it. If you have any thoughts, feel free to put them in the comments, because I'd love to get an example of what you think the family dynamic is like in the 21st century, and now we're pretty deep into the 21st century for that matter. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting day. This is the first of today. I will be doing a second one later this afternoon as a follow-up, and we'll probably just talk briefly about how the podcast went with Kito from this morning, and from there we will have another topic of discussion that Brick and I will share. And I will also, yes, be working on seeing if Kito will be interested in having you on on one of his future podcasts. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that this was a thing that bothered you that much. I know I mentioned it to you because we've just been sitting here talking all morning. Well, if you hadn't spilled your coffee, I probably wouldn't have lost my train of thought. That was the real thing. That was the real issue about why I probably didn't even think to ask you if you wanted to be on, or to ask him if you could be on. Right. Okay. Listen, we'll get back to this. Again, thank you all for listening. Can't thank you enough. Subscribers are continuing to come in, and people are giving us some attention to really see and appreciate kind of our experience in COVID, our experience in life, and I think each one of these gets to be more interesting and fun every day, and I look forward to talking with you all more. So have a good morning, and we'll talk this afternoon.